So let's kick this off. This is +5 wisdom. Start with a question. How many of you have ever played a role-playing game? You're in the right spot. Did you raise?
Yeah, of course I did.
Good, just checking. So this is all about learning how to ask the right questions, or ask better questions to solve the right actual issues, right problems. So let's go.
Yeah, so to kick it off, we are going to ask you a couple of questions. So, Jess, why are you here today?
I'm supporting you.
Oh.
It's a good answer, actually. We're going to narrow it down a bit and see about this. What do you hope to achieve today?
I'm going to learn how to ask better questions.
Right answer. And we're doing it even more specific. What do you hope to learn from this session? Now, you got there in the first place, but most people don't, actually. So you have to lead people to where you want them to go. So yeah, this is what it is today.
And I mean, what just happened? This is so common that we see just throwing out a very open question and get a very vague answer. And so many people are just happy with that and go, yeah, okay, that sounds awesome, but what kind of information did we actually just get, if any at all, right? So we went from a broad question that could have essentially 1,000 answers to a slightly more specific question that traded a number of answers to more specificity. And then we went to a specific question, what do you hope to learn today? That in turn narrows down the options, but we have a more clear direction of where to go. And that's essentially today's topic. We're going to look at how to frame the question for maximum effect, then how to listen for what's actually said. I'm not sure that you've noticed, but next time you walk by a mirror, think about this. You have one of these and two of these. But for some reason, most people use this one way more often than these ones. And that's the important stuff, listening to the actual answer, listening to what's being said. And finally, keep asking until you get an actual answer. So in essence, our goal here today is to help you figure out how to ask better questions to solve the right problems. Because there is, sadly, no silver bullet that is going to help you all with this. It's the same as with tuning. There is no go faster switch. There is no always make sure you ask the right question switch. It's something that you need to think about, and it's about context, it's about culture, it's about so many different things.
Practice.
Practice is a good point, for sure. So how do we do that? And that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah. My name is Linda Torong. I come from the beautiful parts in Sweden. He comes from the rest of Sweden. I live with my fiancé and 2 girls, and I work as a data platform engineer at Data Masterminds. I started just in February. Before that, I worked at another consultancy firm in Stockholm. And before that, I was in journalism and in retail. And that is why I pick up on this session. I learned a lot in journalism, and I see that we have a need for that kind of, well, knowledge here. My drug of choice is data warehousing and Power BI and all the magical things you can do with that. I really love it. And together with Alexander, we run the Swedish Power BI user group, and that is a lot of fun. I also do my best to get more women into tech, because we need more women in tech. That's just a fact. And therefore, my 2 daughters is going into tech, neither if they want to or not. It's just a fact. Yeah.
All right. So I'm Alexander. I'm apparently from the not-so-nice part of Sweden.
Actually.
Which was not rehearsed, by the way. I still think that part of Sweden is fantastic. I've been in IT for 25 years. Some of you have been to my sessions. You've heard me say that this is not white. No, this is data science gray. It's a whole different shade. Just letting it out there. So in 25 years, I've seen so many things. I've put my fingers in just about every pie there is. And about a decade ago, I came to this stunning conclusion that, yeah, tech is cool, but wait a second. It's not about tech. It's about the people. How do you influence people? How do you take something technical and turn that into a decision, turn that into, well, making data matter. And that's why I, for once, despite my wonderful title of Principal Solutions Architect, which nobody really knows what that means, I make data matter. Or let me rephrase that. I try to make data matter.
Every day.
Most days, for sure. So, as Linda said, we run the Swedish Power BI user group together. I co-host a podcast called Knee Deep in Tech. Some of you are old enough to recognize the reference to Doom, which, by the way, is the best game ever. Anybody not in agreement? There's the door. Yeah, it's always someone. We are actually doing a live recording tomorrow at 2:10. Yeah. We've had some time zone issues, let's just say that. But I'm going to be there 2:10. According to the schedule, it's going to be 2:10. So let's just say that it's going to be at 2:10, right? So, all of this is just common sense, right? Right? Well, if that was the case, why are you all here? If that was the case, why would this session be picked up at an event like this? Now, the funny thing is, depending on how you define the word funny, is that it is common sense, but still we make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Someone goes, I want this, and off to the races we go. It doesn't really matter what this is because we don't really know. We need to figure out what are we trying to achieve before we start putting tech on it. It's so much fun to try to teach a course and show someone a scenario. This is what we're going to build. And instantly they go for, oh, I think I need Event Hub here. And I know that Synapse and Analytics is a thing. I'm going to put that in before we even know what are we going to do. And that's something that we're going to be reiterating over and over and over and over through these 50-ish minutes. So let's build the best data warehouse ever.
Yeah, let's do that.
Are there any pitfalls in that statement? No.
No.
Nice. We're going to get along just fine. So let's unpack that a bit, because you should have seen your faces. Let's build the best data warehouse. What does that mean? Let's say that we are, 40-ish people in here, and that's at least 50 to 60 different opinions. And that's the thing. I mean, a data warehouse for me is something completely different for the next person. You might have an unhealthy appreciation for Excel.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Excel, by the way, is by far the single most dangerous piece of software ever devised. Yes, it's still the underpinnings of the world, but it's still a dangerous piece of software. I love it. Anyways, so we might be assuming that we're thinking about the same thing when we say a data warehouse, but that may or may not be the case. 3 Excel sheets and a dashboard could be something that Linda could be using to forecast her entire company, and she could be happy with that. Or maybe we're thinking about millions and millions of rows of sales data that we need to put into a proper data warehouse with historization and all those funky things. But is it? And again, that's going to come back over and over and over again. I don't know where we're going, but that does not stop me from having preconceptions. Everybody has them, and if you're not happy with my preconceptions, I have more of them. So we keep coming back to assumptions. Dangerous word, that. So how do we start? We're going to start with unpacking what does the best data warehouse ever mean. What do we need to define for starters? What do we need? Like data warehouse.
Data.
We need data.
Yeah.
Oh, you're onto something there. Yeah. So is this where we bring in Adam and Patrick and massage the data?
Let them do all the stuff.
Yeah, that data is never going to be the same. So let's not. No. So the best data warehouse. There's a couple of dangerous things in here. What is a data warehouse? For starters, we already touched on that. Is it a couple of Excel sheets? Is that everything we need? Is it a proper full-size data warehouse? Do we need a dedicated pool? Do we need Databricks? What kind of stuff do we really need? And that's just a technical aspect. We haven't really thought about what are we trying to solve. And then we have the next dangerous word, best. What does best mean?
The fastest.
Fastest.
Fastest, shit.
Yeah, but what do you mean with fastest?
It has to be fast.
Yes, but what does fast mean in this context? Like, I have instant query response, or should it be fast to install? Yeah, you see where we're going with this? One word can mean so many different things. So, when we keep going, how do you define what is the best data warehouse? So, here is where it gets a bit muddy. It's easy, again, for me, I've been in tech for 25 years. Most things for me is a technical solution. I instantly go for some way to apply Event Hub or Azure or whatever. And that's not the first choice, because you're going to end up in this situation. This is where you find the bridge between IT and the business. Everyone in IT refers to the business as the others, and I can guarantee you it's the same thing going the other way. Why is that? At the end of the day, as an IT person, I cannot solve the problems to make the business go. And at the end of the day, the business people, they need IT people to actually realize the ideas that or the technical solutions they have. So it's kind of, to be blunt, stupid to not have better communication. But we are still here. All of us in here, we still feel this kind of pain. So, back to the data warehouse. No, let's do an example. And this is an actual thing that happened a few weeks ago, just to really drive home the point that if I say something that might not be what she sees, the color pink. Now, this is an interesting aspect of language. How would you describe the color pink?
Well, not purple, that's for sure.
There is a wavelength.
That's a great answer. That's a scientific answer. Most people would go for, well, it's kind of like a red, but darker, and thus we need to have an idea of what red is. But it turns out, and this is not something that we made up, it actually happened. My opinion of pink is something Linda calls purple.
Yeah.
We're both in agreement that it's not the same color.
But I'm right.
Moving on. Anyways, when we try to understand each other over some kind of barrier, we need context. Context is key. Context is what helps you pick up what I'm not saying. That's a good thing. It's also a bad thing, because context gives you preconceptions, right? So depending on the context that we're talking about, we might go, oh, that's clearly the same thing. Again, data warehousing. If I'm used to data warehouses, I've been doing that for 20 years. Someone comes in and say, I need a data warehouse. I have a pretty good idea of what is needed, and I have a pretty good idea what it takes to implement that thing. But what if it's just the 3 Excel sheets that is a data warehouse? Well, we're already up shit creek, and we're going to stay there for a bit. I mean, before you make any blueprints for a house, what do? Well, you need to figure out, is it going to be a cottage or is it going to be a castle? It kind of makes a difference. Everybody in agreement so far? Everybody awake so far? Good stuff. Just checking. Another interesting thing, budgets. Have either of you ever had to think about budgets?
All day, every day.
No one. Okay. Now, budgets are a two, what is it called? Two-way street and two something sword. Two-edged sword, yeah. Thank you. Again, English is not my first language. Because a budget can keep you down. You want to do all these cool things, but you only have money for this. But it also makes it easier, because you know you can't do all these things, so it's going to force you down a specific path. So in some cases, you can use the budget as a driver for asking the right questions. Kind of neat. Assumption is the mother of all. You can fill in whatever word you want. But according to the Code of Conduct, I can't. And the thing here is, you laugh at this, but we do the same thing every day in tech. It is so easy to immediately go to, Event Hub. How many streaming units do I need in Stream Analytics? What kind of size of the database? How much memory do we need in the database server? I'm instantly going into lingo that I'm used to. And if I'm talking to someone who is not a technical person, yeah, I might just talk about anything.
Airplanes.
Airplanes. I like to talk about airplanes, you know that. So speak clearly, speak simply. And again, this sounds like the most obvious thing, but it isn't. We keep making assumptions, and language, or lingo in this case, it is the same kind of issue. And we keep going. Language. Here's the funny thing. I'm from Sweden, she's from Sweden. Data Masterminds has people all over. And we do a lot of customers in the Netherlands. So we have at least 3 languages, Swedish, Dutch, and English. I can guarantee you something is going to get lost in translation somewhere. And my English is, well, let me rephrase that. My accent sounds fairly much like American. You might assume that my grasp and command of the English language is thus as a native. It's not. I've been speaking English for a long time, and I have a fairly good grasp of it. That just means that I'm not going to notice when I make something stupid. So language is an important thing. And depending on where you are in the world, you might actually need a native speaker. Take Finland, for instance. It is exceedingly difficult to do business in Finland if you don't have a Finnish speaker in the company. Most Finns speak English just fine, but you need to have a Finnish speaker in the company. There we go. Assumption is the mother of yes. What does a user-friendly solution mean? Well, what does a user mean? What is a friend? Difficult definitions. It sounds easy, but it's not. You need to dig deeper. Always, always dig deeper. So what is the question but a tool to give you a response? This is not the end all. It's a tool. Look at it as a piece of string that you can tug on and see what comes. Use the output of the first question as an input to the next question. It helps you drive the conversation and helps you figure out where to go to find the specific piece of information you're looking for. If you don't do that, if you come in with your preconceptions and apply that to the conversation, well, you're inadvertently driving the conversation in a way that you might not even realize. So that brings us to the whole thing of what is the right question? Are you asking the right question? Many, many years ago, I was working with infrastructure, and a customer of mine wanted to buy a disk array, an IBM disk array with an insane price tag. Like the price tag, the cost for that thing was multiple small cars. And my salespeople, they were absolutely over the moon. This was their entire budget for the year. They would be rich. And then I came along. And I had the misfortune of asking, okay, but what are you trying to achieve? What do you mean I'm trying to achieve? Why are you buying this? Why are you even asking them, why are you buying this? We're going to sell it. We're going to be rich. Yes, but what are you trying to achieve? And it turns out that they had everything already. They didn't need that enormous piece of hardware. If they just repurposed a few of the other things they had, did some tweaks here and there, they were good to go. So I saved the customer a lot of money. My salespeople were not happy, but I can guarantee you at the end of the day, when the dust settles, I actually still had a job. We've been through this. And that customer came back And over time, we actually made more money of them than we would have done if just selling that piece of hardware. Let's just double check. This is where you dance, by the way.
I'm the monkey here. So
She
yeah.
did it. I had not expected that. Perfect. What about unclear questions? Have you ever felt this in a meeting? Someone is asking questions, that's a good thing. Someone are asking stupid questions, then you feel like this. Why did you get this job? So on. Ask stupid questions, it's kind of like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you ask not only the wrong question, but what can be perceived as a stupid question, you're getting this result. People are not going to be very happy. Do you think that is going to prime them to answer more of your questions? No. What is the quickest way to get people to do this?
Talk about airplanes.
No, not talk about airplanes. You know, there was a time when I felt that it was great to have a co-presenter. That ended quickly. Now, what is the best way to get someone feeling like this?
Interrupt them, not value their thoughts.
Thank you. Interrupt them, not valuing their thoughts, not listening to the answer. That's the best way that I know of having people going like this. But, anybody met this guy? Dr. Gregory House of House MD, a great TV series. Interesting personality, I'll say that. What does he always say? What is the main mantra that he keeps repeating over and over and over again? Yes, everybody lies. And that is so true. Everybody lies.
I don't.
That was a lie.
Thank you. You just made my point. That is a lie.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, everybody lies, but they might not realize they're lying. They might not intend to lie, because we're back to context. It's about psychology. So if I ask a question, what happens? We add our preconceptions, and then we might lie. So you need to learn how to ferret out the actual meaning, not necessarily listen to what's said, but what they're meaning, what's behind that question. So how do you do this?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a second to read that. Yeah. After is good. Okay, so now we are actually talking about the semantics of framing a question. How often do you really think about how you frame your questions? Anyone?
Not at all.
Not at all. No? Most
was the
people
right
actually
answer.
don't. And that's kind of the problem. Like, do you think about how the question will affect other people when you actually don't frame it at all? No, we don't. We just blurt out what's ever on the top of our mind and think that's going to fly. It doesn't, actually. Well, we might not be known for being the strongest people kind of business thing, but we are in the people business. We have to accept that, and we have to, adapt to that. Otherwise, our work will never be of any use to anyone. And that's kind of sad, actually. My experiences with techniques of interview and Alexander's experience in how often we try to solve the wrong issues opened this discussion between us, and hence this session. And in my few years, I've seen the problem formulate itself over and over again. So we figured this is something quite common. Then what's the common denominator? We are the problem here. So we know how most problems should be solved. We're the experts, but that doesn't always make us good experts at what we do. Actually, not if we haven't bothered listening to the people trying to define the problems. Because the business side is put in the position where they're supposed to answer questions they don't even understand, because it's all techie and thing, and they're like looking like question marks. You need to stop and look at the actual problem at hand and investigate if you've understood the problem correctly, and then choose the right path forward. If you don't do that, well, that's going to be a mess. Most things done in haste will have to done all over again. And more time and thinking in the beginning will actually make the rest much faster and much more precise, and we'll all be much happier. Right? Yeah, right. I'm right. So yeah, let's dive into it. What is an open-ended question? Does anyone know?
That's an open-ended question.
That's an open-ended question. Yeah, that's right. You learned your things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't understand the problem you're facing or the original question, just go for an open, like, why X kind of question. That's an open-ended question. Just get them talking and listening to the output, and let that drive you forward. So, how do we formulate an open-ended question? What kind of answers will it bring? And how can it be used? And the most important part, what's the point of them? That's what we're going to look at now. Well, the open-ended question keeps the discussion going forward, as I said. It begins with the traditional kind of how, why, when, where kind of things, what we usually relate to as an actual question. And it most often gives you a longer, more informative answers, so you have something to deal with here, which can be used when you really need to investigate more, or as a follow-up question could also do. Use it when you don't know the answer. There is no right and wrong here. There's just a view and thoughts of the recipients. No right or wrong. It's really good when you want the person to give you clues about where to go. Like, start there and go there. If I ask you, like he's been talking about all morning, what do you think makes the best data warehouse? You would probably give me some information on what's the most important thing for you. Not the objective truth, because that's objective to every single person here. And if your answer, your probably would be an efficient data warehouse. I can go further from there and see and ask why you think an efficient data warehouse would actually be something good, or what actually defines an efficient data warehouse.
Yeah, efficient, user-friendly, all those words are exactly that, just words. Yep.
And we also have closed-ended questions. It's the two parts, open and closed. It may be defined as a question that provides a set of responses. This is kind of the opposite of the open-ended question. This is not for long answers. This is really for the kind of yes or no answers. And how do we formulate those? And what kind of answers will they bring? And how can they be used? And again, what's the point? Well, a closed-ended question refers to any question for which a researcher provides participants with options from which to choose from. So you have a set of responses. It begins with a more specific answer in mind. Is it so you had your outfits picked out like a week ago?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you confirm that your pink is my purple?
No.
Okay. You're probably given a yes or no answer, and that's what you want with an open, closed-ended question. Use it when you need to confirm something, when you need a definite answer, or when you want the recipient to really understand what they're answering to. This is a way of quickly collecting facts to lean against. You can see it as framing a thesis of sort, like really establishing what you're talking about. So, what kind of magic happens when we combine the two of them? It's kind of a 1-2 punch. You start open and closed. Alexander, what is your favorite food?
Banana.
Oh, yeah, come on. Have I understood you correctly that your favorite food is bananas?
Yes.
See what we did there? Yeah. It's kind of a sanity check, but for his, that's a sanity check gone wrong, but yeah. So let's put the banana in context, shall we? In most of my session, as well as in Alexander's, we talk a lot about listening and the importance of it. And you're going to hear this until your ears bleed today, so yeah. If we don't listen to each other, at work, or at home, or anywhere, we're really not doing great as humans. You will most likely miss crucial information or the small hints if you don't listen carefully. And whether you hit or miss those hints, you're going to act accordingly. In one way, the recipient will feel heard and acknowledged, and in the other way, they will feel unseen and quite unhappy about this. This is where it makes all the difference if you're ending up with a data warehouse of their dreams or of their nightmares, or the worst possible scenario, the abandoned one, because that's all the work in the drain then. Yeah. An open-ended question is not putting your preconceptions into the thought process of the responder. This gives ample opportunity to listen for the real meaning, the cues, and not only what is being said, like he talked about. Are you hiding?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of hard because you're short.
You're not that tall. Well, there is so many new and shiny toys out there, which we want to try to put to use all the time and incorporate in all of our projects. It's a high probability that we lead us astray. I actually do that mistake a lot, because I like the shiny toys, so yeah. But practice some restraint and ask yourself if all of those whistles are really needed. They probably aren't, actually. The customer won't like you more if you've done something fancy-smancy if that wasn't what they actually asked for. So I'm gonna repeat again. Listen. Please listen. If you feel confused, like he's looking at that, or not clear about what the person is actually saying, keep asking. Keep asking until you understand their message. If you don't understand their message, it's a high probability they don't understand what they're answering to. I have actually asked clients this same question over and over for days and weeks and gotten like 10 different answers. Then you know this is not going the right way. And if so, stop. Stop asking the same question. Reframe it and see if that will make more sense to them. Even if you can ask why 5 times, sometimes you actually have to reframe the question, because only an idiot would ask the same question and repeat that and think that that's going to lead somewhere else in the ending. It's not. A closed-ended question helps you to confirm the problem statement, as well as drive you toward the solution. Like, all right, let me make sure we're in agreement of that you want the best data warehouse.
Yep.
Yeah. And the definition of the best data warehouse in this instance is to do the project as efficient as possible.
Efficient is good, yes.
I have a yes. Did you hear that? So we still not established what an efficient one is, but I have a yes that efficient is what you confirm for me to need.
At this moment, yes.
At this moment. Tomorrow it's going to be something else.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah, in essence, you're listening for the optimization goal. What is really important in this discussion? You're listening for what they mean, not necessarily what they're saying. And that's rarely the same thing for us people. We are hard to understand. Even harder when we ourselves don't know what we need or want. And that's quite common in this business. Again, the question is but a tool to give you a response. But a well-framed question will get you further. Look at the piece of string that you talked about. If you tug it, see what comes out of it. We don't always get what we want out of it, but we actually have to adapt to it. There are actually tests where you're expected to explain something as you would to a child. Have any of you tried to do that?
Or your mother.
Oh, yeah.
Try to get my mother to understand what I'm working with.
That's not impossible.
No.
It's actually one of the hardest things you can do. You cannot expect them to have any prior knowledge, and everything needs to be explained dead simple. Try to do that with a data warehouse, and I wish you all the best. And it's the same with questions as it's explaining things. You have to really think about it to get it to work properly. The response is the solution. Your question is but a tool to get there, but you won't get there if you ask the wrong question or frame them poorly. You really won't get there. This means that your success in getting to the essence of things is strongly tied to your ability to ask questions and listen for answers. If you think that you could throw any kind of data warehouse into the problem and it will sort itself out, you're wrong. It's not going to work. Look at it like doing a dance thing. No matter if you're in the lead or not, you won't be. The two of you will either have a laugh at the poor dancing skills.
We will.
Yeah. Or we're going to create these beautiful walls together.
We won't.
But no matter that, it's going to take the two of us to actually make a dance.
True
the
that.
saying like, it takes two to tango.
Yep.
Yeah. Even if I have no idea how to tango, it does take two of us. So, yeah.
It takes two of someone.
True.
Right.
But please, 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 put some time and effort in this phase of the project. If you're hurrying through this part, which often takes place in the beginning of a new project, then you are very likely to work towards the wrong goals. No matter how agile your project method is, it won't be visible in the first or second sprint, then you're heading in the wrong direction. And over time, the working parts will start to distrust each other. She doesn't understand what I mean. He's not listening. And it's really hard to get back from that position. So do your best to actually avoid it.
Indeed. And as you said, it's funny how people that don't spend the time up front to do something the right way, they always seem to find both time and money to do the whole thing again and again and again.
And that's bad.
That is bad, yes. We're in agreement. So all of these things are a bit abstract. Yes, I'd agree that this is mostly common sense. But how do we put this into a concrete example? Let's go back to the whole idea of asking for something. What do you need? That's a very open-ended question. We're talking about data, we're talking about sales. What do you need?
I need a sales report.
All right. So she needs a sales report. Easy, right? Next stop, Power BI, we're good to hold that thought. So let's unpack that a bit. She says sales report. What does one of those show? That's a good question. What does she mean when she says a report? Okay. But we can take one step back. Why does she think she needs a sales report? So why do you think you need a sales report? What are you trying to achieve?
I want to see where my sales are doing, which people are actually selling stuff, and maybe the most gross sales items I have. That kind of thing.
So, so we are actually talking about a classic sales report. Where you need to figure out where do you sell stuff, who's selling them, as you said, and what is selling the most.
Yeah.
Because the point is to, in turn, take that information to drive sales in some way. All right, so that's good. How do we want to consume that data? How do you want to use that report?
Well, I want it on my phone. I want a nice pie chart in my phone. And I want it in real time.
Really?
Yeah. Can I have it?
And that was not part of this discussion.
Sorry.
But okay, let's unpack that. So she wants it on her phone. That is an interesting proposition. Power BI, which is the tool that I use the most, can definitely do that. You can do a smallish report and that you can use on your phone. But it takes a whole different set of ways of thinking, because you cannot put everything in the kitchen sink on the report canvas, which is, by the way, the most common way of doing things. If you can fit it in, it's going to fit in. If you can't fit it in, it's still going to be on the report.
I only asked for 3 things. It should fit in.
Should fit in. Yes, that's a good point. Okay, so we know where you want it, and you said the dirtiest word.
Real time?
Real time, yeah. So what does real time mean?
Well, I update my inventory every night, so isn't that real time?
You're smiling, but that is so often the case. Real time doesn't necessarily mean real time. I've worked with real time systems. They are exceedingly complicated. They're exceedingly expensive. And they're exceedingly rare. Because when you tell people how much they cost and how difficult they are to work with, suddenly my real time just turned into every hour or every day.
Yeah.
If I had not asked that question, I wouldn't know, and I would be halfway to building an enormous solution that would be so expensive, and at the end of the day she'd go, yeah, but no. So ask, 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 ask.
Should I listen also?
There's so many things that I could say right now that I'm not, but yes, please do. It's considered polite, if nothing else.
Okay.
So let's recap. The question is only the tool. You've heard us say that maybe 16 times. But it's that simple. It is a tool for you to scratch at the surface and find meaning. Take that tool to keep going. It is never the full solution. You cannot just, with one question, find the entire answer. And in many cases, you can keep asking for days. You're never going to have the entire answer. Why?
Because people change.
Because people change.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's also why you might find yourself in a situation where you, over the course of a couple of days, need to ask almost the same question, but you come at it from different angles. Because people might not have thought about a specific question from that specific angle. Solve the right problem. It's so easy to put on a slide. Solve the right problem. Who in here wants to solve the wrong problem? I love honest people. Thank you. But that's so often the case. We have an idea, we start solving it, and then we surface and go, look at what I did. And my customer goes, that's cute, but that's neither a banana and it's not pink. So you're back to square one. So do not go making new problems. I can guarantee you have enough problems as it is. You don't need more. But it's easy, if you're not careful with your questions, to end up with more than you had when you went in. And assumption is the mother of all expletives. I cannot restate this enough times. Because it is going to be your own assumptions that are going to lead you down the wrong path. And if it was just you, that would be awesome. But unfortunately, you probably have some counterpart in, like your customer, that is also leading you down the wrong path. So leave no definition unquestioned. What does user-friendly mean? What does user mean? What does friendly mean? What does fast mean? All the stupid questions. Those are the ones that is going to give you the direction. So our goal today was to help you figure out how to ask the right questions, to ask better questions, to answer the right.
And this is not a simple thing. We know that, but do practice.
Sure. I mean, what does better questions really mean? As you've seen through these 50 minutes, there's no simple answer to the question, what is a better question? We're in IT. Well, I'm assuming that most of us are in IT. Regardless, if we want to or not, that means that we are essentially problem solvers. Another day, yep, another problem. That's how it works, right? There's no simple thing in IT. Ask me how I know. Without learning how to ask the right questions, listen to the answers, and figuring out the actual answer and the actual issue, I'd argue that we're not doing our job. That is the job. Do you really realize how much people is in that equation and how few tech issues are in that equation? Yeah. But if we're not doing this, we're not doing our job. So take everything you've heard these 50 minutes and go and do your job even better. My name is Alexander.
And I'm Linda.
Thank you so much for your time.